Hello and welcome to this short tutorial. We're going to look at exporting from Unity to WebGL. So this game is far from, in its current state, far from finished. But the purpose of this game is to just show you technique and methods to enable you to make your own game. And to work through all the different sort of possibilities and permutations of what you're going to design. So in this, what we're going to look at is exporting to WebGL. Just before we go, just to let you know what we had put in, or what I challenged you to do, and hopefully you've done it, is to fix what I just did there. So this only works when it's greater than. It doesn't work if it's equal to. So this should be greater than and equal to, and then everything will cascade down. If it's only equal to, then nothing will happen. Anyway, that's just a residual from our last class. So how do we export to WebGL? Well, it's fairly straightforward, but there are a couple of prerequisites, a couple of things you have to have done. So the first thing is you have to have WebGL installed. So often when you install Unity, it'll only install this component here, which is for Mac and PC and Linux. If you don't, for example, if you have you don't have the Android exporter or sort of component downloaded and installed, at this point here, when you click on Android, it will say, it'll ask you to download the Android exporter, and the same for WebGL. You won't have this option here. Now, we don't need to turn on a development build. We can, if we want, and maybe in class we'll talk about what exactly a development build is, but for now we're going to leave that turned off. The thing we're most interested in here is an ability to organize our levels. So our main menu should go first. So if you have, it doesn't matter how many levels you have in here or how many scenes, you need to make sure that whatever you want first is at the top, and then everything will sort of, like, you're going to put in scripts to control how you navigate from that opening scene, but just make sure that the opening scenes, the opening order you have is correct. And then once you've done that, you're going to, before we hit build, we're just going to double check that we have our settings correct. So at the moment it says resolution and presentation 960 by 800, because that's the default, so we do not want that. We want to export, so then you can see here it says settings for WebGL. So the game I've been making is 1920 by 1080. Now obviously if you get that incorrect, you're going to, all of your your aspect ratio will be out, or parts of your game will be cut off, etc. So make sure that you get your resolution correct. There are no icons, so this is not an app. If we were making an Android APK file, it would ask us what icon we want to use. Our splash image, so we can put in our logos. You'll see that it's the Unity logo that it puts in. In order to not put in a Unity logo, you need to spend a lot of money and go buy the whole the Unity monthly. You have to pay the monthly kind of fee for it. In these other settings, again, we'll go through some of these in class. Most of these are just to be left at their default. Most of them don't affect what we're doing, and so we can explicitly increase the amount of RAM that's used, but most of these kind of default settings are what we will use. If you you can force it to use or have a minimum amount of RAM. You can force it to do all sorts of things, but you will probably reduce the compatibility of your export, so it'll only run on certain machines then. So we're going to leave all the default settings except for our screen width and height, and obviously you have your own decisions made on your own exported game and have made your artwork correspondingly. So make sure that's set correctly, and then we're going to hit build. Now it's going to ask me for not for a location, it's asking me for a folder. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it WebGL Export, because I'm very original. So it's looking for a folder, and I'm going to hit select folder, and then it's going to build. And this can take a lot of time depending on the complexity of your game. Now there's obviously not a lot in mine, but depending on how many assets you have, how large the assets are, if you have a lot of music, for example, or if you were making a 4K game or something like that, this could take a very long time. So it's compressing, again, some of those settings that we kind of skipped over determine the compression rates, etc. So quality of the finished game. So I'm just going to nip to Windows Explorer here, and this is my folder, so my WebGL exports. I'm just going to click in here and see there's nothing there at the moment. And when this is finished, what we'll end up with is something quite simple that we'll be able to open up in, I'll probably open it in Chrome. So this should finish up in about 30 seconds. And obviously the speed of your own PC, if you're doing this at home, is relevant to how long it's going to take. So this machine here has 16 gig of RAM and a 762 gig NVIDIA graphics card. So nothing too great, but not a bad machine either. And you've all seen this game, so you know how few assets I have in it. So like I've only 2 audio files, for example. So we're just resuming here. It actually took under 8 or 9 minutes to export. So when you're finished your export, you'll get a whole bunch of data to go with your game, and then you'll have a HTML file. Now, interestingly, if I double click this and I load up Chrome, so let's just open this in Chrome, I'll get an error and it says Chrome does not support this, and it doesn't. So and then I can try it in Internet Explorer, but let's not do that. But it would not work either. So we need to run this in Firefox. Now why is that? Well, it'll only run in Firefox at the moment, the WebGL exports. So I can put in a name, play game, and then I can go play my level, and I get to my scoreboard and I score 6. So the WebGL support in Google Chrome and in Internet Explorer is on the way, but it's not there at the moment. So the only one you'll be able to actually execute this in is in Firefox. So the things to look out for, the reason we're doing this now in class, because the game's not due in for a little while, is that not every build of Unity is going to have this option in it. So if it's not there, we may have to get Ross to install it for us. So when we're in class tomorrow, we'll check that out, and then if it does work, we'll do some test exports and check out the gameplay, etc., and see if all of the assets, etc., have built properly in your game. Okay, that's it for now.